The rain poured down in sheets, blurring the world into a gray wash. Inside the speeding ambulance, the paramedics, Sarah and Mark, braced themselves against the jolting ride. Every second counted. A young boy was struggling to breathe miles away. Suddenly, a flash of brown fur darted into the road. Mark slammed on the brakes, the ambulance swerving dangerously. A medium-sized dog stood defiantly in front of them, barking furiously, its tail tucked low. "What the?" Sarah exclaimed, frustration evident in her voice. "We don't have time for this. Get out of the way." The dog, a scruffy mutt with intelligent eyes, didn't budge. It continued to bark, its voice filled with urgency, almost pleading. Sarah leaned out the window, trying to shoo it away. "Go on, get home. We have an emergency." But Bella, as she would soon be known, stood her ground. She seemed determined to stop them, her small body trembling in the cold rain. Mark, usually impatient, noticed something in the dog's eyes, a desperate plea that transcended the barking. He turned to Sarah, a flicker of doubt in his expression. Maybe something's wrong. Look at her, she's really upset." Sarah sighed, checking her watch. Every moment lost could be critical. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that Bella was trying to tell them something important. "All right," she conceded, 5 minutes. "If we don't find anything, we're leaving." "Okay, girl," Mark said, opening the ambulance door. "Show us what's going on." Bella, as if understanding, turned and started running down the road, glancing back to make sure they were following. Sarah and Mark exchanged a look, grabbed their emergency kit, and hurried after her. The rain continued to fall, making the already dark road even more treacherous. Bella led them off the paved road and onto a muddy path that wound through the trees. The wind howled, bending the branches low, and the beam of their flashlights danced erratically. "Where's she taking us?" Sarah asked, struggling to keep up. "I don't know," Mark replied, "but I have a feeling it's important." They followed Bella for what seemed like an eternity, their boots sinking deep into the mud. Finally, the dog stopped at the edge of a small clearing. She barked again, this time pointing her nose towards a dilapidated shed that looked like it was about to collapse. The shed was partially hidden by overgrown bushes, almost invisible in the darkness and the rain. One side had completely caved in. Bella whimpered, scratching at the debris. The sound of the wind was almost deafening. Sarah shone her flashlight on the collapsed shed. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely audible above the wind and rain. "Is anyone there?" A weak groan answered her. It was faint, barely a whisper, but it was enough. "There's someone inside," Mark exclaimed, scrambling towards the wreckage. Carefully, they began pulling away the debris, splintered wood, rusted metal, and soggy cardboard. Bella whined, pacing anxiously, nudging their hands as if urging them to hurry. The rain continued to lash down, soaking them to the bone, but they worked with a renewed sense of urgency. Finally, they cleared enough of the wreckage to see a man trapped beneath the fallen roof. He was lying on his side, his face pale and contorted in pain. One of his legs was pinned under a heavy beam. He looked to be an older man with kind eyes and a weathered face. He was barely conscious. "We're paramedics," Sarah said, her voice calm and reassuring. "We're here to help you. What's your name?" The man groaned again, his lips moving slightly. "Tom," he managed to whisper. "Bella." His eyes flickered towards the dog, a faint smile gracing his lips. Bella licked his face, whimpering softly. It was clear that this was her owner, and she had done everything she could to save him. Mark quickly assessed Tom's condition. "We need to get this beam off his leg," he said, his voice grim. "Sarah, get the hydraulic spreader." Sarah retrieved the tool from the ambulance, and together they carefully positioned it to lift the heavy beam. It was a delicate operation, any sudden movement could worsen Tom's injuries. Bella watched intently, her eyes fixed on her owner, a low whine rumbling in her chest. With a groan, the beam slowly lifted, freeing Tom's leg. It was badly bruised and swollen, and Sarah suspected a fracture. They carefully splinted the leg and checked his vital signs. His breathing was shallow and rapid, and his pulse was weak. "He's going into shock," Sarah said, her brow furrowed with concern. "We need to get him to the hospital immediately." As they prepared to move Tom, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at Bella's unwavering loyalty. This brave dog had not only saved her owner's life but had also reminded them of the incredible bond that can exist between humans and animals. The original emergency call was still in the back of her mind, but this immediate crisis took precedence. They would need to call for backup. "Dispatch, this is Ambulance 42, Sarah said into her radio. "We have a Priority 1 trauma. Elderly male trapped under a collapsed structure. We require immediate transport to County General and advise another unit be dispatched to our original call." With the beam removed and Tom's leg splinted, they carefully lifted him onto a stretcher. Bella trotted alongside, never leaving his side, her nose nudging his hand as if to reassure him. The rain showed no signs of stopping, and the muddy path made the journey back to the ambulance slow and difficult. The backup ambulance arrived, its flashing lights cutting through the darkness. The paramedics from the other unit helped them load Tom into their ambulance for transport to County General. As they secured him, Tom reached out a weak hand and stroked Bella's fur. "Good girl," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You saved me." Sarah watched, her heart aching. The bond between Tom and Bella was undeniable, a testament to the power of love and loyalty. She knew that Tom's chances of survival were slim, but she also knew that Bella's presence had given him a fighting spirit. Mark climbed into the ambulance beside Tom, while Sarah stayed behind with Bella, waiting for animal control to arrive. The ambulance pulled away, its siren wailing in the night, carrying Tom towards the hope of medical intervention. Sarah knelt down and stroked Bella's wet fur. "You're a hero, Bella," she said softly. "A true hero." The little dog leaned into Sarah, finding comfort in her touch. It was the beginning of a long wait. Now let's rewind a bit, back before the storm, to understand the deep connection between Tom and Bella. Tom, a retired carpenter, lived a simple life in his small cottage on the outskirts of town. His wife had passed away several years ago, and Bella, a rescue dog he adopted from the local shelter, had become his constant companion. Bella wasn't just a pet, she was family. She followed Tom everywhere, her tail wagging enthusiastically. They went for walks in the woods, shared quiet evenings by the fire, and Bella always slept at the foot of Tom's bed. She was his shadow, his confidant, and his furry best friend. Tom had always been a kind and generous man, always willing to lend a hand to his neighbors. He volunteered at the local soup kitchen and spent his free time fixing things for people who couldn't afford to pay. He treated Bella with the same kindness and respect, always making sure she had plenty of food, water, and attention. He found Bella shivering and scared, abandoned near the shelter, and he knew in his heart that they were meant to be together. He nursed her back to health, teaching her tricks and showering her with affection. In return, Bella gave him unconditional love and companionship, filling the void left by his wife's passing. Their bond was built on mutual respect, affection, and an unspoken understanding that transcended words. They were each other's world. The old shed had been Tom's workshop for years, a place where he tinkered with wood, built birdhouses, and repaired furniture for his neighbors. It wasn't much to look at, but it held a lifetime of memories. He had promised himself he would fix the roof before winter. That afternoon, despite the gathering storm clouds, Tom decided to patch a section of the shed roof that had started to leak. He knew he should wait for a clearer day, but the forecast predicted even worse weather tomorrow, and he didn't want the rain to damage his tools. Bella, sensing his intentions, whined and nudged his hand as if trying to dissuade him. But Tom patted her head and reassured her, "It'll just be a quick job, girl. I'll be right back." He climbed up the rickety ladder, a hammer and some roofing nails in his hand. The wind was picking up and the rain started to fall in a light drizzle. He worked quickly, trying to secure the loose shingles, but the wood was rotten and crumbling beneath his feet. Suddenly, a gust of wind ripped through the trees, shaking the shed violently. The ladder swayed, and Tom lost his balance. With a shout, he tumbled from the roof, landing hard on the ground. The old shed roof, already weakened by age and weather, gave way under the force of his fall, collapsing on top of him. He was trapped. The impact knocked the wind out of him, and a sharp pain shot through his leg. He tried to move, but the weight of the collapsed roof pinned him down. Panic began to set in as he realized he was alone and helpless. "Bella!" he called out, his voice weak and strained. "Bella, help!" Bella, who had been watching him from the cottage window, heard his cry and immediately sprang into action. She barked frantically, running back and forth between the house and the shed, trying to figure out how to help. She knew something was terribly wrong. She tried to pull at the debris with her teeth, but it was too heavy. She scratched at the fallen wood, whimpering in frustration. She knew she had to get help, but how? Remembering their walks into town, she knew the road to the main street. With a determined bark, she ran out of the yard and into the downpour, her small body shaking with fear and determination. She knew she had to find someone, anyone who could help her beloved Tom. The flashing lights of the ambulance in the distance became her beacon of hope, and she knew she had to do everything in her power to get their attention. It was a race against time. Tom's life depended on her. Back in the present, at County General Hospital, the doctors were working tirelessly to save Tom's life. The initial assessment confirmed Sarah's suspicions. Tom had a severely broken leg, requiring immediate surgery. But that wasn't the extent of his injuries. Further tests revealed internal bleeding likely caused by the impact of the falling debris. His age was also a factor working against him. At 78 years old, his body was more fragile and less able to withstand the trauma. Dr. Emily Carter, the attending physician, spoke to Mark, who had accompanied Tom in the ambulance. "He's lost a lot of blood," she explained, her voice grave. "We're doing everything we can, but his condition is critical. The next few hours will be crucial." Mark relayed the information to Sarah over the phone. The news weighed heavily on her heart. She knew Tom was a good man, and she couldn't bear the thought of him losing his life after Bella's heroic efforts. Meanwhile, Tom was rushed into surgery where a team of surgeons worked to repair his broken leg and stop the internal bleeding. His heart was weak and his blood pressure was dangerously low. It was a desperate fight to keep him alive. The surgery was long and arduous, and the outcome remained uncertain. All they could do was wait and hope for the best. Meanwhile, back at the scene, animal control had arrived and taken Bella to the local shelter. She was given a warm bed, food, and water, but she refused to eat or sleep. All she wanted was Tom. She paced restlessly in her kennel, whining and scratching at the door, her eyes fixed on the entrance, hoping to see him. Sarah visited her at the shelter after her shift ended. Bella recognized her immediately and ran to the front of the kennel, wagging her tail tentatively. Sarah knelt down and stroked her soft fur. "He's in good hands, Bella," Sarah said, her voice gentle. "The doctors are doing everything they can." Bella seemed to understand, resting her head on Sarah's lap. Sarah stayed with her for a while, offering comfort and reassurance. She promised to keep her updated on Tom's condition. As Sarah left the shelter, she couldn't help but feel a sense of helplessness. All she could do was hope and pray that Tom would pull through. She knew that Bella was anxiously waiting for him, and she desperately wanted to bring them back together. The image of the loyal dog blocking the ambulance in the rain was etched in her mind, a constant reminder of the incredible power of love and devotion. The small town was also starting to hear of the dog's bravery. News reporters were asking questions. The local paper wanted to do a feature on her. "She's a local hero," someone said to Sarah as she was leaving. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. The rain finally stopped, and the first rays of dawn peeked through the clouds. Sarah, unable to sleep, returned to the hospital, hoping for any news about Tom's condition. She found Mark sitting in the waiting room, his face etched with exhaustion. "Any news?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Mark shook his head. "Still in surgery. It's been touch and go. They're doing everything they can." They sat in silence, the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Carter emerged from the operating room, her face tired but hopeful. "The surgery was successful," she announced, her voice filled with relief. "We were able to repair his leg and stop the internal bleeding. He's still in critical condition, but he's stable. He's a fighter." Sarah and Mark exchanged a look of relief. A wave of emotion washed over Sarah, and she felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank goodness," she whispered. "Thank goodness." "Can we see him?" Mark asked. "Not yet," Dr. Carter replied. "He's still unconscious and needs to rest. But I promise, as soon as he's awake and stable, you can visit him." She paused, then added, "That dog of his, she's quite the hero. It's amazing she got you there in time." She smiled, a genuine smile. "Animals never cease to amaze me." Sarah immediately called the animal shelter. "Is Bella still there?" she asked, her voice filled with anticipation. "Yes, she is," the shelter worker replied. "She hasn't moved from her kennel. She's been so worried." "Tom's surgery was successful," Sarah announced, her voice choked with emotion. "He's stable. Can I bring Bella to see him?" There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line. I don't know," the shelter worker said hesitantly. "Hospital policy. I'll have to check with the administration." Sarah pleaded her case, explaining Bella's heroic actions and the incredible bond between the dog and her owner. She emphasized how much it would mean to both of them to be reunited. After a few tense minutes, the shelter worker returned to the phone. "Okay," she said, "I spoke to the hospital administrator. They're making an exception given the circumstances. You can bring Bella to visit Tom, but it has to be in a private room and it has to be supervised." Sarah's heart soared. "Thank you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you so much." She rushed back to the animal shelter, her heart pounding with excitement. When she arrived, Bella recognized her immediately and barked excitedly, wagging her tail furiously. Sarah opened the kennel door and knelt down, hugging the dog tightly. "We're going to see Tom, Bella," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "We're going to see Tom." The drive to the hospital was filled with anticipation. Bella sat quietly in the back seat, her eyes fixed on the road ahead, as if sensing that she was about to see Tom. Sarah could feel her excitement, and it made her own heart swell with joy. When they arrived at the hospital, Sarah was greeted by a nurse who escorted them to a private room on the 3rd floor. The room was bright and airy, with a large window overlooking the town. Tom was lying in bed, his eyes closed, his face pale. He was still hooked up to monitors and IVs, but he looked peaceful. Sarah led Bella into the room, and the dog immediately recognized Tom. She let out a soft whine and jumped onto the bed, gently nudging his hand with her nose. Tom's eyes fluttered open, and he looked at Bella with a weak smile. "Bella," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "Good girl." Bella licked his face, her tail wagging slowly. Tom reached out a trembling hand and stroked her fur. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated love. The bond between them was palpable, filling the room with warmth and affection. Sarah stepped back, giving them space to reconnect. This was the moment they both needed. "You saved me, girl," Tom said, his voice stronger now. "You're my hero." Bella snuggled closer to him, burying her head in his chest. The relief of being reunited was evident in her every movement. She was finally home. The hospital staff, touched by their reunion, allowed Bella to stay with Tom for several hours. She curled up beside him on the bed, offering silent comfort and companionship. Tom drifted in and out of sleep, but he always reached out to touch her, reassured by her presence. As the day wore on, Tom's condition continued to improve. He was still weak, but he was alert and responsive. The doctors were optimistic about his recovery. The story of Bella's bravery had spread like wildfire throughout the town. People were calling her a hero, and the local newspaper ran a front-page article about her incredible loyalty. Donations poured into the animal shelter, and offers to adopt Bella flooded in from all over the country. But Bella already had a home. She belonged with Tom. Sarah visited them again that evening, bringing Tom a get well card signed by the entire paramedic team. Tom smiled weakly as he read the card, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, his voice hoarse but sincere. "You saved my life. Both of you." Sarah smiled back, her heart full. She knew that this was just the beginning of a long road to recovery, but she also knew that Tom and Bella would face it together, their bond stronger than ever. The community also started collecting money for Tom to fix his shed. "We all want to help," a neighbor said to Sarah. "Tom is always helping everyone, so it's time we help him." Weeks turned into months, and Tom slowly but surely recovered. Bella remained his constant companion, providing unwavering support and love. The hospital staff often joked that she was his best medicine. The community's fundraising efforts were a huge success. They raised enough money to not only rebuild Tom's shed but also to make it safer and more accessible for him. A group of volunteers, led by Tom's neighbors, worked tirelessly to construct the new shed, incorporating features that would accommodate his mobility limitations. One sunny afternoon, Tom was finally discharged from the hospital. He was greeted by a crowd of well-wishers, including Sarah and Mark, the animal shelter staff, and many of his neighbors. Bella, of course, was right by his side, wagging her tail excitedly. As Tom stepped out of the hospital, he was overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and support. He looked at Bella, his eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," he whispered to her. "Thank you for everything." The volunteers led him to his newly rebuilt shed. He gasped as he saw it. It was sturdier and better than ever. A sign hung over the door, "Bella's Shed." Tom smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. He knew that he and Bella had a long and happy life ahead of them. "Let's go home, girl," Tom said to Bella as he and Bella went inside the new shed. "We have a lot of birdhouses to build." The rebuilt shed became a symbol of hope and resilience for the entire town. It was a place where Tom could continue to pursue his passions, surrounded by the love of his community and the unwavering loyalty of his best friend. And Bella? She became a local legend. Her story was shared far and wide, inspiring people to appreciate the incredible bond between humans and animals. She received countless awards and accolades, but all she cared about was being by Tom's side. One day, Sarah and Mark visited Tom and Bella at their newly rebuilt shed. Tom was busy building a birdhouse, and Bella was lying at his feet, watching him intently. "How are you doing, Tom?" Sarah asked, smiling. "Never better," Tom replied, his eyes twinkling. "Thanks to Bella and thanks to all of you." Mark knelt down and petted Bella. "You're a true hero, girl," he said, scratching her behind the ears. Bella wagged her tail and licked his hand. She didn't need words to express her gratitude. Her love for Tom spoke volumes. As Sarah and Mark left, they couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and inspiration. They had witnessed firsthand the power of love, loyalty, and community. And they knew that the story of Tom and Bella would stay with them forever, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can always be found. It was a beautiful end to a harrowing ordeal. The story of Bella and Tom became a timeless tale, a reminder of the extraordinary capacity for love and loyalty that exists within the animal kingdom. It was a story that touched the hearts of people from all walks of life, transcending language and cultural barriers. Bella's bravery was celebrated in schools and community centers, inspiring children to be kind and compassionate towards animals. Her image was used in campaigns to promote animal rescue and adoption, encouraging people to open their hearts and homes to animals in need. Tom, too, became an advocate for animal welfare, sharing his story at community events and speaking passionately about the importance of treating animals with respect and dignity. He often said that Bella had not only saved his life but had also taught him the true meaning of unconditional love. And so, the tale of the dog who stopped an ambulance in the rain became a legend, a testament to the enduring power of the human-animal bond. It was a story that would be told and retold for generations to come, a reminder that even the smallest and most vulnerable creatures can possess extraordinary courage and unwavering loyalty. It was at its heart a love story. It was at its heart a story about hope. And it was at its heart a story about the strength of community. But the true legacy of that stormy night wasn't just about heroism or community spirit, it was about the profound and unbreakable connection between a man and his dog. It was about how a small act of bravery could ripple outwards, touching countless lives and inspiring hope in the face of adversity. The memory of Bella standing defiantly in front of the ambulance, barking with all her might, would forever be etched in the minds of those who witnessed it. It was a reminder that even the smallest creatures can possess the greatest courage and that love knows no bounds. And as Tom and Bella spent their days together in their rebuilt shed, building birdhouses and enjoying the simple pleasures of life, they knew that their bond was something special, something that could never be broken. They were each other's family, each other's support, and each other's greatest source of joy. Their story serves as a beacon of hope, demonstrating that even in the darkest storms, the light of love and loyalty can always shine through. It's a reminder to cherish the connections we have with the animals in our lives, for they offer a love that is pure, unconditional, and truly life-changing. The community continued to check on Tom and Bella to make sure they were doing okay. Bella had become a true celebrity in the town. Years passed and Tom and Bella continued to live a happy and fulfilling life in their little cottage. Tom continued to build birdhouses and Bella continued to be his faithful companion, always by his side. One crisp autumn evening, as Tom sat by the fire with Bella curled up at his feet, he reflected on everything that had happened. He was grateful for the love and support of his community, for the skill and compassion of the paramedics and doctors, and most of all, for the unwavering loyalty of his beloved dog. He reached down and stroked Bella's soft fur. "You're the best girl in the world," he whispered. Bella looked up at him, her eyes filled with love and devotion. She didn't need words to express her feelings. Her presence was enough. As the fire crackled and the wind howled outside, Tom knew that he had everything he needed. He had love, he had companionship, and he had a story that would inspire others for generations to come. And he knew that even though life could be unpredictable and challenging, the bond between a man and his dog could overcome any obstacle. The memory of that rainy night, once filled with fear, now brought a sense of peace and gratitude. Tom felt lucky to have Bella in his life. He didn't know what he would do without her. And what about the other emergency, the one that Ambulance 42 was originally rushing to? Thankfully, because Sarah called for backup, another ambulance arrived and was able to assist the young boy who was struggling to breathe. He was quickly transported to the hospital and made a full recovery. So, in the end, 2 lives were saved that stormy night, all because of a brave dog named Bella. It was a reminder that even when things seem chaotic and uncertain, good can always come out of it. And it all started with a simple act of loyalty and love. That in itself is a beautiful thing. The world needs more Bellas. The world needs more Toms. The world needs more people willing to stop and help even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Because you never know when your actions might save a life or two. Bella's story is a testament to the power of kindness, the strength of community, and the unwavering bond between humans and animals. It's a story that will stay with us forever, reminding us to always be grateful for the love and companionship that we share with our furry friends. It's a reminder that every day is a gift and that we should cherish every moment. It is a perfect story. So, remember Bella, the dog who stopped an ambulance in the rain? Her tale is a reminder that even the smallest among us can possess extraordinary courage and unwavering loyalty. It celebrates the unbreakable bond between humans and animals, the power of love to overcome any obstacle, and the importance of community in times of need. Let Bella's story inspire you to cherish your own furry friends, to appreciate the simple joys of life, and to always be willing to lend a helping hand to those in need. For in the end, it is the love and compassion that we share that truly makes the world a better place. It's a story of love, loyalty, and the power of a community. It's a story that reminds us to never underestimate the strength of the human-animal bond. And it all started with a dog who stopped an ambulance in the rain, and what they found will break your heart but also fill it with hope. It's a story that will stay with you forever. A story about Bella and Tom. A story about a special and forever-lasting bond. A story that shows the world the true meaning of love. And it all began on a stormy night with a brave dog and a desperate plea for help. Their legacy lives on,